And welcome to another edition, Rewatch Party, this time for the great 2008 Owls football team. We have a great crew assembled, at least as I see it. The great James Casey. James, how are you and your family doing right now?
I'm doing well, just like everybody else. We're quarantined and trying to get as much work done and staying busy. I'm out here in Cincinnati, coach for the Bengals and trying to get ready for our season.
And newly minted and division rival, San Antonio native Andrew Zendejo, one of the old guys in the league, but still trucking, huh, Andrew?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, great to have you. Record-setting duo as well. It's almost appropriate to introduce them as a duo. The great Chase Clemente and Jarrett Dillard. Guys, how are we doing?
Hanging in there, doing well. This is kind of weird times, but we're figuring out how to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
same here, just hanging in there, spending much needed time with my family and kids. So, taking advantage of it where I can.
Yeah, JD, we ran into each other at the airport. I was coming back from my last Rice basketball game, and then you were about to go on vacation. I understand you actually ran into Chase on vacation, huh?
Well, that's a funny time. I was actually heading to Cabo with the wife. So this was our first, one of our few just husband-wife trips. So we went to Cabo for about 3 or 4 days, and I saw you there during that. And then I want to say 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks later, we took the kids to Destin, Florida, and that's where I ran into Chase on a completely random, I'm driving a golf cart, and I see his car, and I said, that guy looks like Chase. So I call him, and, he answers finally, or he calls me back, and, he literally, I about a half a mile to a mile away, he was staying at another house down the road, and drove over there, and I saw his wife and his brother-in-law and his wife. So it was really good. It was, we caught up for a little bit, and then, I made my way back.
Definitely a small world, and record-setting, few touchdowns in between those guys. So my job here, guys, I'm staying out of the way, but we wanted to relive part of the 2007 season, how that led to the 2008 season. I know you all know, and some of the fans remember, but that was such a big year. 10 wins, first time that had happened since 1949 at Rice. It was the first bowl win since the 1954 Cotton Bowl. But let's kind of rewind. I know a few games for a lot of y'all ago, but back in 2007, what did you sense about 2007 that kind of eventually led to the success in 2008? Because you lost your first 4 games of 07, but then you won 2 of your last 3. So I like to hear each of your thoughts, how that kind of parlayed into a really magical year in 08.
Well, first off, it's kind of crazy to even say 2007. That 13 years ago feels. A lot of it kind of feels like recently. I can still remember a lot of things from those seasons, those times, which is kind of nuts. But crazy to think 13 years has gone by. But I think that the turning point for that season was probably the Houston game when we played at Houston. I think we lost 56-48, and that was when our offense really opened up and we really started to go. I think that's when we knew we could be pretty good. And I think down the stretch there, we had a handful of games where it was pretty high scoring, a lot of back and forth, lost some late. I know the Tulsa game ended with us having like 700 yards of offense or 650, and so it's constant back and forth. And so those last 4, 5, 6 games, that stretch is when we knew we were going to be pretty good.
I'll go next. I was a true freshman in 2007, so I was just trying to figure out what was going on. I was playing defense, and then I moved to offense, and I was kind of playing wildcat quarterback some. I was playing receiver. I didn't really play a lot early on in the season. I was just kind of watching Chase, watching Jarrett, and just trying to learn everything. And about halfway through the season, I started playing a little bit more, and I guess the coaching staff was probably trying to figure out what to do with me. But I did feel like towards the end of the year we were playing much better, and I was getting a lot more involved, more opportunities. And I think at the end of the year, I think it kind of started coming together. And the coaching staff, it's hard when you get a brand new coaching staff coming together and trying to, because they got to learn the players. I was a young player, they got a lot of stuff they got to go through, and they were kind of probably figuring it out a little bit. And then I think we got it all situated going into that second year, 2008. I think we all knew we had a good team. We had a much better team than we showed in 2007. We were able to put it together in 2008.
I think it was after Southern Miss when you played like 8 positions, 9 positions. They were like, I think we could probably use this guy. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. Now that I'm coaching, I look back at what the coaches were kind of thinking at that point, and I'm seeing them kind of sitting in their staff meetings, probably just saying, you know what, screw it, let's just let the guy play. And I'm glad they did, because after that I started playing a lot more, and I was frustrated early on in the year. I was still a true freshman, but I knew I had a lot of stuff to work on. But wasn't as long as I thought because I finally got some opportunities late in the year. And then really appreciative of our whole entire coaching staff. We had a great coaching staff there, especially now as it's, years down the road, you see where all these guys are at. Like even our student assistant was like a past game coordinator at Texas, Drew Maringer. Now he's at FAU, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what I remember is just kind of how like the ups and downs, like 06 good year and then 07 down year. And I think just after having those 2 years under my belt, it was kind of like going into 08 was like, all right, well, we're not going to let 07 happen again. And, in 06, we made it to a bowl game for the first time in however long, but we lost. So I think going into 08, it was kind of like a way to right the ship. And going into the bowl game, the mentality was like, all right, we made it to a bowl again, but we're not going to, lose this one. We're going to come out with a win, finish the season strong.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on what everybody said. I thought 07, it really showed who we were. 06 was a good year, but if you really look at 06, I don't think we won games in the manner that you should win games. Unlike the 08 season. 08 season, it really felt like we were winning games decisively, not on some last minute Hail Mary play. So even if you were go before 06, and not to, derail the conversation, but even under our last year under Hatfield, if we had the ball bounce one way or the other in any given game, we would have 5-6 wins. But obviously the ball always bounced not in our favor in that 05 season. And 06 comes around, the ball bounces in our favor. But then 07, that's when we saw that we had a good team. We had some losses. We had some little trials starting off because we had a new coaching staff with a new philosophy. Although it was a spread offense, I think Chase will agree. It didn't feel like a spread. Herman, he came in, he had a different type of philosophy. And the misconception you sometimes will have with Rice football is that all these guys are smart, they can do this. Well, at one point, I thought, our offense at that time was a little too complex, and it was taking some time for us to, gather it and like absorb it and memorize the 3-4 plays in the huddle and the check downs and all the checks, which was something a little totally different than we were used to before. But however, we started getting better. We started getting more efficient. And yeah, we kind of turned it around towards the end of the season. And then of course the 08 season started, and we kind of hit the ground running, and the rest was history.
That's pretty wild. You think back on that. Herman and that staff came from Texas State in 05, where they had, Barrett Neely, they took a deep run into the playoffs. Obviously, they brought that offense that had success, and they were built for that into that 06 season. I forgot that we had the 2-3 plays in the huddle, and it was you try to snap the ball with 1-2 seconds left every single play clock. I think it was David Beatty that started pushing for the spread and started pushing for that up tempo, and so we slowly started putting that in. And then by the time we got midseason, I think we lost 4, 5, 6 games there at that point, and that's when they just said, screw it, let's just open it up and roll, and that's when it all started to click.
Yeah, Chase and Jarrett, that was one of the other notes I had, that Chase, you come in the last year of Hatfield, correct? And then you start throwing a little more with Major, and Jarrett referenced some of that. Discuss that beginning, that relationship with JD, how, obviously JD was big time 06, Biletnikoff finalist, and how that, I'd love to hear from you two, how that kind of started kind of growing there in 2006.
A lot of things came together. 05, he and I went back because at that point we weren't doing summer school. So we had a lot of time on our hands. So back in San Antonio, he's my only receiver, down there. So of course I'm going to call him and vice versa. And we got together and threw the ball a lot. So that's kind of what started that, that back and forth a little bit and that chemistry. And then of course, opening up the offense, getting away from the option offense that we did from Hatfield. A lot of it just kind of came together. Jarrett was our main weapon that year, and we had a very unique offense with Major. I thought that was kind of the start of the no huddle, some of the up tempo stuff. You weren't seeing a ton of that. We had a lot of different formations that we were able to run out of, so it kind of gave us the opportunity to run the ball, be under center, be a shotgun. We had a good senior running back and Quentin Smith, and so it just kind of all blended together well. And so that was kind of when you started to see the talent that JD had. Obviously his jumping ability. I think that at 5'11", that point, before, I guess maybe that was kind of right around when Yancey came in. You had that one off season, but JD, I think you were 170 pounds, 175, and so defenses, they didn't think this guy was anything special. He doesn't physically look like it, and all of a sudden he's got a 48, 49-inch vertical, and they quickly figured out he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, how was that on your end, JD? Chase talked about the maturation, but on your end, you obviously did a lot your sophomore year, but you didn't let that kind of stop where you progressed. You kept getting better.
Well, yeah, no, Chase and I, it started, our freshman year when we started under Hatfield, where we would practice together back at home in San Antonio, even at Rice, we would throw routes, do the route tree. And, that was really something that no other receivers were doing at that time. But as our relationships progressed, and then as we, just became, more not just teammates, but just more friends, you realize that we were trying to incorporate that same type of style with all the receivers, and slowly but surely it did kind of develop. And I think it's a little different on the defensive side, and I guess Andrew can you can give an opinion on that. But with offense, especially a receiver, it's kind of easy to throw the ball around, run routes, catch the ball. That's kind of what you do. But as the 06 season came around, I think with what Major kind of implemented in our offense, it definitely shined a light on me, and I was able to, make do with it, but then the 07, then that's when we were trying to incorporate more of our receivers, where we had the Corbin Smider, the Torrin Dixon, we had some other guys out, the Tommy Henderson. We had some really good receivers out there that were assisting. And then 08, that's when, it was anybody could get the ball, anybody, anywhere could ball. And that's, you can actually look at, going to the 08 Texas Bowl game, James Casey took a touchdown pass from me. I like to,
at least you got one.
No. And he didn't take it. I ran the wrong route, and Chase just slung it up there. And, it's me at 175 pounds soaking wet, and James at 215, 230. running full speed, and James had to run where he was head down, head focused on the ball, and I'm looking at the ball and at James, and I said, "Nah, let him get it."
Well, it makes you feel better. I was actually throwing to you, not James.
Oh, I didn't. I had no idea, but we gave the wrong cylinders, miscommunication. But James was running towards it, and I had to jump out of the way. I don't know. You remember the quarter of that play, James? You remember you caught it was like a seam route, and I ran a post when I should have ran a 9 route. But,
I remember it vividly. We had a scissors concept. It was 4x1. The play was designed to me, and then I saw Chase look over to you and give his little fingers like this, which means 9. But you ran that. I kind of saw you out of the corner of my eye, but I was like, well, I think I can get to this ball. And I was like, I don't really care. Jarrett's had plenty of touchdowns. I'm going to go ahead and get it.
That's right.
Yeah. And luckily we didn't run into each other, but it was it was a definitely memorable play. And I'm chasing, and then I know Herman was pissed at Chase because he was hot off the edge, and he spun out of it, and then threw it to Jarrett, but I stole it from him.
I didn't want to run James over because I always had the nail, the hammer, and not the nail, and it just would have. I would have hurt James's career. That's why I just went ahead and went for the ball. Said, James, you got it, man. I didn't want to hurt you. Because obviously my 175 pounds and the amount of energy and force
Chase
that
got you back later on in the game, so he threw you an inside fade. And you had 60 touchdown catches, which I think is still a record. So I think I'll take one from you. It's not that big of a deal.
It's perfectly fine.
Andrew, you're outnumbered here on the offensive side of things. So I want to give you some in the defense, a lot of much-deserved clout with Brian Raines, the great season he had, and just playing through countless injuries. Just kind of talk about the defense, and we'll get to the game specific too in a second. You can include it too if you want, but just how y'all grew from 07. I was looking at the numbers compared to 07, 08. Y'all did a wonderful job in 08. So what led to that defensive improvement, and what did you like about that stretch?
Well, first and foremost, I think there's no denying that our team ran through our offense. I think defensively, obviously the goal is to keep them from scoring at all, but we knew that we had a great offense that even if we held a team to 30, that we were going to outscore them anyways. But I think, towards the end of the season, things definitely started clicking more as we made that push for going into a bowl game, playing better defense. And, just the way our offense was, they just go down and score. So we were out on the field quite a bit because the offense didn't mess around with getting it down the field and getting into the end zone. But like I said, that's just how it is sometimes when you have a special year, is that things just start to click and go the right way. And it kind of all came to fruition like right at the bowl game, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, I wanted to lead off some highlights of the 2008 season, doing some prep last night. But that SMU game in the opener, June Jones comes from Hawaii to SMU. That gets hyped, moved to national television. Y'all wax them pretty good. And Andrew, if you don't mind kind of leading off this roundtable, what that game meant, big rivalry, obviously, but you had a pick six in that game that really kind of got the ball rolling, what turned out to be a great year.
Yeah, I think, opening game, prime time, conference game, like obviously, we had known about the game, the schedule, probably all spring and summer. So a lot of hype around it. And obviously, they have the run and shoot, high-powered offense. So as a defense going into that, it's going to be pretty challenging. I think the first offensive snap of the game that they tried to take me deep. And the way we used to play our quarters defense, then we would just stand flat-footed. And this guy just ran right by me, actually. And so it could have really like ruined the entire season had I not broken up that pass, because it would have been the first play of the game for a touchdown against us. And for whatever reason, I was able to get there and knock the ball down. And thank goodness, because that could have just flipped everything. But it was another one of those things. We came out, started the season strong with the win on prime time. And anytime you start the season with the win, it kind of just sets the tone for the rest of the year.
Then segueing guys into that Memphis game, and include that SMU game, any part of the early season if you want, but you didn't play the best in the Memphis game, but you had a great rally. Quentin Jammer got an interception at the end of the game that really iced things. So at that point, 2-0, Chase, James, Jarrett, Andrew, did y'all feel like, hey, you got something going here?
Well, I'll start off with the SMU game. So we actually went down, if I recall, 14-0. And obviously with the hype that they had coming out and, everything that you mentioned, it was cool to see how calm we were on the sidelines. We felt like, hey, we still got a long game ahead of us. And I think we came out and, put up 56 points and ran away with it. And so that gave us a lot of confidence. But then going into that Memphis game, obviously, tough opponent, first away game, which I always thought Memphis, was always a strong team, had great talent, great athletes. Really could have been a very strong team. They were. So not playing very well that first half. That was that fourth quarter, I think, is when James just completely went off. I think you had 200 and something yards received. I don't know if it was all in the fourth quarter, but I know you had a big game that game, James, and you had a couple big plays in the fourth, and obviously coming back from behind, being able to tie it late, and then to have our defense, have that pick six, and it just kind of showed that we were going to win as a team. And it wasn't just going to be one side or the other, but just everything was just coming together, and that kind of gives you that confidence of, hey, 2-0, but not only just 2-0 in the season, but 2-0 in conference, which is huge.
Yeah, we all, we played some units on ESPN, and we all had mustaches because we all grew mustaches out during training camp. So I remember that very well. I remember we were playing SMU, and I know I'm involved in the offense now as a sophomore, so I know I'm way more involved. And we go out there, and we get down early, and they have like somebody get hurt on defense, nickel or the linebacker or something, and they put the guy in. I think his last name was Castro, but he was a tiny guy, like really, really small guy. And I remember thinking when that happened, I was like, oh, man, these guys are in trouble. And I think we like 328 wide hot or something like that, that everybody runs like sprint out and you throw it back to the tight end. I think Chase hit me on that early on in the game. It was our first touchdown. And then, of course, going to Memphis, I remember our strength coach, Jansen McKnight, just talking about how many guys they had that could power clean over 300 pounds, and they were just way better looking than we were when you walk out there pregame. We started off real sluggish, and then we just took off in the second half. Like Chase said, I had a whole bunch of yards receiving. Jarrett had a really good game. I remember we called like pump chains, where you run like a curl route, go deep. And I'm running my route as hard as I can, but I'm like, it's late in the game. Like, there's no way he's going to throw it to me. He's going to throw the ball to Jarrett, which that happened a lot during the season because Jarrett and I would be separate sides. And most of the time on certain concepts, I knew he was going to throw it to Jarrett, but I would still run hard. Then every now and then if they rolled the safety to Jarrett, then I could get open and Chase throw me the ball. But he threw it to me down the field, and I made a big catch, and then I caught a 2-point conversions on stick nod that Chase hit me in the back of the end zone. It tied the game up with like 18 seconds left or something against Memphis. So you're just expecting them to take a knee. They come out, and I don't know what the heck they're doing, but they throw a pass, and our young true freshman corner, Chris Chandler, picks it and has a pick six, and we got to keep the mustaches for another week as well.
Well, yeah, remember we had that. I forget his name. What was the name of the guy? We had the picture of the mustache that we had with us. We went in the locker room. Everybody was holding it up, and the scene of the locker room was crazy.
It was taped to the door, and I think Scott Solomon was doing the bone saw, but then he hurt his back or something the next game because he had back spasms, and I was like, "Damn it, Scott! Indeed, he couldn't play the game because of back spasms." Yeah. But I vividly remember Scott Solomon's bone saw celebration or pregame routine.
That started.
Scott Solomon's bone saw, and then Jarrett's being 11'5" pregame always got me ready to go. And then when everybody would say, "Y'all ain't ready," that got me ready to go.
Yeah, so a good segue for Jarrett. Y'all are 2-0, and then Ike comes. You're practicing, and all the forecasts are coming. You go to Vanderbilt. Some of the guys even stayed home. You play really tight against Vanderbilt. You lose the game, unfortunately, but you come back, and Jarrett, your car, Chuck was telling me, was kind of busted up, and y'all couldn't come home until Monday night. So how deflating was that Vanderbilt game? Because I'm sure you had a lot on your mind, but at the same time, it was probably still a good test of the season.
Well, Vanderbilt, I don't think – I know myself, I wasn't really concerned about the hurricane. Being from San Antonio, you hear about the hurricanes a lot, but you're not – it's a lot of rain, but I don't know. I was never flooded or anything, so I didn't think that would be a big deal. It would just be a lot of bad rain, no big deal. So I think that was one of the first – this is after Katrina and Rita, but that was my first hurricane where I've actually experienced my own form of damage to my vehicle, as well as just like a lot of guys, there was like a stay-at-home order, like by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. at night, you had to be at home, and our power was out at our apartment with my two roommates, so it was interesting. That was my first kind of hurricane kind of experience. But Vanderbilt hurt because, and I will admit it, I dropped the third down conversion. I had it in the bread basket, and I dropped it, and it hurt. And it really hurt me then because the game before that, I dropped a wide open either post route or seam route that Chase threw me. So it was like two drops, back to back. That not back to back, but from back.
That was
to
that flea flicker.
Say what?
That was that flea flicker.
Yeah. It hurt because it's like, what am I? Why did I drop this? But so Vanderbilt was a crossing route, third down. I don't know if it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, but I drop it, and that would have converted on the first down. I think we were either down 3 or down 2 at the time, but we were definitely marching down to tie it up or take the lead. And I thought that still sticks with me today, and quiet as it's kept, because I'm on the Texas Bowl committee. And, this year I was with Oklahoma State, and who coaches at Oklahoma State now, who coaches the receivers? Dan Hammersmith, who was our receivers coach that 08 season. So I'm talking to him, and he even brought up the story about Vanderbilt because he remembers it, but he really remembers how I responded to it, because then it got to the point where at practice I had all the receivers show up, get out early. We were doing ball drills, we were doing distraction drills, because I think it was mostly, I was just letting myself get distracted while the ball was en route, and I wasn't focusing on bringing it in. Well, he remembers that. He remembers us going back, rallying together, and the season for me, and this is more the individual side, for me, it changed because, you drop 2 key clutch passes, and, in the Memphis game and the Vanderbilt game, that sticks with you. And any receiver will tell you, you're going to remember the drops way more than you remember the catches and the touchdown. So, but with that being said, Vanderbilt, I thought we played them really well. I mean, it was the film study, that was one of the games where we didn't just watch the teams based on, what coverages they run with certain downs and distance. We actually started to watch the tendencies, and I think that was something that Coach Hammersmith, having some NFL experience, he kind of brought to the table. So I started watching the safeties and watching, what they did with their feet pre-snap. And I knew this one safety they had at Vanderbilt, I mean, it was you could put $100 on it every time. He would always shift one way and then roll to cover 3, or shift one way and roll to 4, roll to cover 2. And when I started recognizing that, I mean, I caught one, I guess the first touchdown of the game on a seam route, because we saw they were rolling the 3. I kept it up the seam. Chase hit me, touchdown. And that game was fun because you started seeing the real, you started seeing the fruits of, the film study and the real practicum that you gain in doing that, and doing the film study, and not just sitting around watching 3rd downs and watching 4th downs, just hoping that, okay, just throw me the ball, or let's just run it up the middle. You start looking at tendencies. But yeah, Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, guys. I lost that game for you. Yeah.
No, I will say, it's funny you say that. I know you hold a lot on your shoulders for that, but it's funny. I feel the same way about that game, but for a different reason. It was actually, it was 21-14. I'll never forget this. We're going, I think it's like the south end zone where it was bold, and we ran fly X jerk to you, Jarrett, and we're around midfield. And the jerk route is it can be slow developing, but it's a big pop. And the seams, all the guys were out, so it was Jarrett on a linebacker. And if I basically pumped it down because I thought he was going back out one way, and then he slid underneath, and so I pumped it, brought it back, and then that's when I got hit from behind. I fumbled it. They got it, scored at halftime to make it 21-21. But had I just trusted you and just let it go, you would have had days to run. At the very least, we could have gone, to kick a field goal, gone up 10 at half. But it's funny that's the one play probably of the entire season that I hold on my shoulders. If I felt like that was the turning point of that entire game. I thought we could have beat them. They were a good team, but I thought we had them on the ropes.
Well, it was upsetting because didn't they end up going like 7-0 or 8-0?
Oh yeah,
at the beginning of the season that year.
Yeah, they were.
So it's like they beat us, barely beat us, and then they end up going 6 and 7-0. I feel like if we would have come, if I can go back in time and get that game back, and then we still have our 11-win season, I guess now. I mean, I just wonder what that would have done for us. Maybe we would have actually made it to a potential top 25 rated team, if they still would have done what they would have done. I mean, obviously it takes, it's like the butterfly effect. You change one thing, but that would have been something I would have liked to see us play together. And I thought we had a strong enough team to be a top 25 team if we would have had the right competition, would have beat Vanderbilt, and would have kept doing what we did the rest of the season. I thought, we would have had a good shot at that, but can't have it all.
Yeah, that one hurts me too.
And then moving on to the Texas game. So Ike is happening. You play Texas after they had a game canceled. They win that one. You're prepping in the midst of a curfew. And then you go out of conference against North Texas. Score over 70, but I heard they were kind of chirping that about some running up of the score. But Andrew, y'all only had one offensive touchdown the second half. The defense really poured it on North Texas that game too. A lot of scooping scores, a lot of pick sixes in that one.
Yeah, that was I think that was just another total overall just blowout on both sides of the ball. Offense did what they usually do, putting up basketball numbers. Defense, held their side down. I remember special teams playing well too in that game, and that was kind of just even more so showing what the potential was of the team when we put all three phases together, how we could actually just totally dominate people. And like Jarrett talked about earlier, in 06, we would win some games, but it was kind of a sloppy win as opposed to in 08 when we were just straight up dominating people and, getting into victory formation at the end of the game and just kneeling it as opposed to having to, throw up Hail Marys to win games.
Yeah, we beat the crap out of North Texas. I mean, I think we had 77 points with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and they kind of just backed us off. That was a fun game. I think Jarrett broke a record or something maybe in that game. I don't remember if that was a specific game, but I remember just watching film with Chase, with Coach Herman in the quarterback's room in that game, and just watching some of the defensive stuff they were doing, and just kind of getting excited. Just they weren't doing a lot of sound things, and we were able to take advantage of it. That was a fun game because it was it's rare in football, regardless of what level or who you're playing, where you get that easy of a win.
Yeah, that game I remember because I had 4 touchdowns in the first half that game. And,
That's it?
It wasn't like we were trying to, feed me the ball to score a touchdown. I mean, some of touchdowns were just like, these guys were like just letting me in the end zone. And you know, at halftime, I was like, I've never had a game where I had 4 touchdowns, but this one, I have it in one half. You know, this is ridiculous. But they were just, it was just easy. You know, they were just an easy team to score on. And you know, you'll never get games. We used to be like that. You know, they were us.
They only ran like 3 or 4 defenses, which was crazy. Is that, I mean, they just lined up and they just showed you what they were going to do. 6-1 cover 0. They'd blitz one guy off the edge and run quarters, or they just line up in quarters. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. But that was fun for me because so the quarterback on the other side was a Heights quarterback before me. So in high school, we had gone furthest that our high school had ever gone to the semifinals. And then the guys that were freshmen when we were seniors ended up winning the state title. And so the quarterback and his main receiver were on the opposite side of North Texas. So, of course, there was always the banter back and forth of who was the better Heights team and all that chatter. So it was good to actually finally, you know, to a degree, play them on the field and watch the defense get a couple of pick sixes and do what they did defensively. That was extra special for me. But that was the game, Jared, you and I think that was when we broke the record.
Broke or tied. Yeah, did something. Broke or tied at that game. I remember they announced it. Yeah. They announced something.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on in that game. So that was fun.
Yeah, and then in the Tulsa game, JD breaks the record for the most career touchdown catches. And that was one where you didn't play well, but you come back after that, you didn't lose again. So kind of discuss what that stretch, you go through those setbacks. We mentioned the natural disaster and the close loss to Vanderbilt. But I mean, after that Tulsa game, I'd like to hear all of your thoughts on that. Just, I mean, that's when the kind of 08 Rice team came together, would you say?
Yeah, I remember the Tulsa game. I remember, you know, we didn't win the game, but I thought, you know, I remember just like, I don't know if it was, I remember telling Chase, I don't know if he remembers or maybe I remember it wrong, but I remember saying this is the last game we're going to lose this year after that game, just being so confident that we didn't play like we should have. And I knew what our rest of our schedule was. You take it one game at a time, but I was like, there's no way we're going to lose again. Like we shouldn't have lost that game. We're not going to lose anymore. And we didn't lose another game.
And Tulsa always plays well. I mean, I always thought that Tulsa was one of the harder hitting teams in Conference USA. And, you know, it's kind of unsuspecting because it's Tulsa, but they actually were a decent team year in, year out. And, you know, they would bring it. And I guess it was they had their main DBs, but, you know, it was it's just unfortunate. I wanted to beat Graham. I was still emotional about the Graham departure, so I just wanted to beat Graham. And the fact that he got the best of us 2 years back to back is kind of, you know, I would run off the field and not, you know, shake hands. Yeah, I was so childish.
That's what I remember too. That game just being deflated because I think most of us we didn't even care about beating Tulsa. We just wanted to beat Coach Graham. That was it. We didn't care about the other guys. You know.
Yeah, that one I think for all of us is always going to stick because I thought that, you know, if we played that game again, we could have come out on top. It was one of those where just nothing went right because I think that even the first half was real windy and offensively we couldn't get going, and then we came out second half and it was like 3 things right in a row. Within like 5 minutes into the second half, we were down 21, and it just snowballed from there. And I just don't think that because they, you know, the score obviously showed that they beat us, you know, by, you know, 5 touchdowns. It was not an indication of the quality of teams that we each were. Because I think that those, you know, us two and Houston, you know, really were the 3 best teams in the conference, and we just did not come out and play. But I think a lot of it had to do with just the fact that we were just trying to beat Coach Graham, and that was too emotional of a game. I think they got the best of us.
Got these fleeces. I remember some of that fleeces before we played that game.
So segue into the U of H game. They needed a win to get to the conference title game. Y'all ruined that. Massive crowd. I think A&M in Texas, this was Thanksgiving week, if I remember the prep. So y'all had the stage there in our neck of the state. Great weather. You beat them like a drum. Brian Raines has the pick with the cast on one hand, they're telling me. So what did that win against Houston mean for y'all? Start with Andrew. What did that win, and what are the highlights that you remember from that one?
I think going into that game, it was just that their offense was also really high-powered offense. You know, they could score up to 70 points just like our offense could. And U of H had gotten the best of us the last couple of years. So, obviously in the rivalry and all that. So big game. I just remember going to that game thinking, all right, we're going to have our work cut out for us. Quarterback Case Keenum at the time, throwing the ball over the yard. But again, it was, a good team like that, making a push towards the end of the year, and things were just all clicking. And, obviously everyone was fired up for the game. We just played lights out.
Going to the Houston game, I was a true sophomore, but I was already kind of had the idea that I was probably going to declare for the draft. So I was aware that it was going to be my last home game, and I wasn't a senior, so it wasn't a senior night. I think it was senior for Chase and Jarrett. But so just going to that game, just remembering just emotionally, like this is probably the last game I'm going to play, and there's a lot of fans there at Rice Stadium, probably one of the most there's been in a long time for a home Rice football game. And they were obviously a good team. We were a good team. We had a chance for the conference championship. Again, I remember going out there for the first play against them. They had a linebacker that's making a bunch of tackles. His name was Mcgraw, I believe, and he was a freshman. And I just remember watching film on him saying, this guy's a pretty good player. And first play, we were like in a 3-by-1 detached set. And I just remember looking at him, kind of like at that SMU game, and just looking at how little he was. And I was just like thinking, like, this is the guy making all these tackles, and he looks like that. He's just a real small guy. And being real confident after that first play. And then I had an unbelievable game that game. Chase gave me the ball. Like I threw a touchdown. I rushed for a touchdown. I had an unbelievable game. Like to this day, there was a lot of fans there. If I'm ever in town or walking around and they recognize who I am, like that's the first thing they'll talk about is that Houston game. And then the way we were able to play offensively and finish out our, us three, Chase, Jarrett, myself, our last home game at Rice.
Yeah. James, let's just be clear. You're a larger than normal human being, so a lot of people are going to look smaller to you. So let's just be clear on that.
They were just drastically small.
Drastically.
Now, what was cool for me about that game is I remember, one of the, coming down to the tunnel and seeing the amount of people, granted, most of them were red, but the amount of people that were in that stadium and just kind of the, where we started versus where we finished, right? So coming in 2004, and I remember coming out of the tunnel being like, where is everybody? Did everybody forget we had a game today? It was, more people, my high school games than there were, Rice Stadium. It's just because we just weren't a team that people wanted to come see. And then, to go out as a senior in front of that many fans, it was just kind of cool to see how the program had changed and how we had developed and how we had created a program and a team that people wanted to come watch. And just the fact that there was that many people there, it was just a really neat experience. And to go out on top and beat them finally after they'd gotten the best of us the last couple of years, that was just a lot of fun. Yeah. But it was a little bit bittersweet. I think the last minute or two, we realized what was happening at Marshall. I think Marshall, it was like a 4th and 1. Tulsa was going for it. They ended up getting it and then kicked like a 55-yard field goal to win, because we all thought that if we'd won that game, there was a good chance we could go and play for the conference title. And so it ended up not happening there at the end. So it's kind of a little bit bittersweet there for a moment. But other than that, the whole atmosphere was incredible.
Yeah.
So going into the kind of the reason we're all here, we've set it up very nicely, y'all have, but the actual Texas Bowl. So was there a challenge playing at home for that? And somebody referenced the attendance earlier of that last game against U of H, but in that Texas Bowl, I checked the box score just before we started. You had 58,000 there at the Texas Bowl, largely there to see you guys. But was there a challenge y'all playing at home, and what did y'all gain by playing just a few miles away from campus?
I think at first I was upset we weren't going to another city for a bowl game. Then as a young college player, you're looking forward to having a bowl game in a different city you've never been to before and getting to kind of check the city out. But then it ended up being advantageous for us because we were basically playing a home game right down the street. So we had a lot of fans there showing a lot of love.
I remember a guy coming and announced that we were going to go to the Texas Bowl, old Rice alumni, or I don't know who he was, but I know he's real emotional about us getting to go to a bigger bowl game. And I remember being excited about it, but you kind of want to go places, but I was kind of excited because I was already married. I didn't really care for where we were going. I was happy to stay home. I didn't realize we were still going to stay in a different hotel. I think we stayed in the JW Marriott for like 3 or 4 days, which is right across from the gallery, the mall there. And I remember I remember also hoping that we were going to get a big time opponent. I remember hoping like we were going to play Notre Dame or something like that. Just selfishly, just and for the Rice's brand, just to get a big opponent. Although Western Michigan was a really good team, they were 9-3 just like us. And obviously we didn't take them lightly, but I was hoping we'd get a TCU or Notre Dame or something going into that game. And I also knew I was going to declare for the draft going into that game. So I was saying, you know what, I know the best way to get hurt is to play timid. So I was like, I'm definitely not going to play timid, but hope I got this game well and we go win the game and play well, which we did. I mean, we beat the crap out of them, but the whole week was good. I didn't realize you got gift cards and stuff too for the bowl game, because that was my first bowl game. These guys have been there before, and they had like a place, like video games and stuff set up for us, I was old and married. I didn't really care, but it seemed like a cool experience.
Yeah, I thought, it's hindsight now, but me being on the Texas Bowl committee now and seeing what the Texas Bowl does as compared to other bowl games, Texas Bowl is actually one of the highly rated games as far as the team experience. And I remember my experience just being in the Texas Bowl. We weren't, out of town, but it was actually kind of beneficial, because when we had free time, we knew where we wanted to go. We knew if we wanted to go to the mall, if we wanted to go here or whatnot. Whereas in some places where we didn't have Uber at this time, you're just stuck there. You're going to be at the hotel, stuck in some room, the game room they call it, and you really don't know what to do or where to go. So for the Texas Bowl, I thought it was a great experience, and I thought it being in Houston was, phenomenal. And being on the committee now, after hearing, 58,000 fans, I speak to some of the people that are on the board still now today, and they say, it was remarkable how we were able to sell and we were able to get people in the stands, because that was the biggest concern, Western Michigan versus Rice. How are we going to sell this? But it sold pretty well. Now, just the game atmosphere, when you look up and you see 55, 60,000 fans, I thought, and it was mostly blue too at that. So that was a good experience. And the game itself was a great game on all parts. I thought we controlled the game on offense and defense. I can't say anything negative about the game. I enjoyed every aspect of it, but there wasn't much that I couldn't really enjoy. But if we had a choice, maybe the Hawaii Bowl, that would have been nice. I know a lot of people like that. But outside of the Hawaii Bowl or I think the Holiday Bowl in San Diego, where you have that, that California life or Hawaii life, I think the Texas Bowl is right up there with the best of them. You can compare it back to the New Orleans Bowl that I think Chase and Andrew that we've experienced. Bourbon Street is Bourbon Street. You go once, you go 3-4 times, it doesn't change. It smells the same. So doing it in Houston and bringing it back in Houston, I thought it was great. I thought the stars aligned for us. Now, I'm like James. I wanted to play Notre Dame. I thought we had a really good shot of shocking Notre Dame, but they went to the.
They backed out, man. They were scared. They didn't pick that bowl. They went to a different one.
You can say scared, but when you have Houston playing against a legit Rice team or Hawaii, what are you going to pick? So I can't. I think that was Charlie Weiss. I think that was his crew, but. Whatever the case, great bowl game. I look forward to rewatching it when it rolls out again.
Yeah, and I would agree with what you guys were saying, though, that I think at first everybody was kind of like, we're going to be at home, but I think that the fact that there was such a great turnout made that feel a lot more special than it was, because I think that if we had gone to a destination, somewhere else, I just don't think Rice would have traveled well, and it would have finished. You see some of these bowl games with empty stadiums, so I think that it sent us out with a bang. That was one of the first times I felt like I was part of a legit college football program, especially getting off the bus, you walk through a sea of people. It was a long line there. You come out, pre-game, it was getting busy, and it just felt like a big game. So I think that worked out well. And like you mentioned, Jarrett, all the Texas Bowl events that are there in Houston, I'd rather that be in the backyard than having to travel somewhere, to do all that once a year. It's just a little bit more special. We got to build some good relationships through that. So it's worked out, I think, really well.
Yeah, we found out who we were playing. You start watching film on them. They were 9-3. They were a good team, and especially their secondary. I think they had Louis Delmas as a safety, who was a second-round draft pick to the Lions. I ended up playing against him in the NFL. They had a E.J. Biggers, a corner, that played the league for a little while. There's quite a bit of NFL talent on the field, including us. We had multiple guys that played in the NFL, and just I know that you know the history too of Rice that hadn't won a bowl game since I don't know when, whatever the date was. It was a long time. Rice hadn't had 10 wins in a long time. We're playing in front of our home crowd. There's a lot of people there. I was aware that this was going to be probably my last game, so I was trying to do everything I could. And my most memorable part of that game for me was, obviously still in the touchdown from Jarrett, but it was when Andrew Sendejo got an interception and started blowing kisses to the crowd. That was the most memorable part.
It's a hell of an interception, too. I think you did a backflip after you caught it.
Yeah, the receiver hit me right in the legs when I went up, and I kind of somersaulted. I landed. I got turned around, so I thought I was running to our sideline, and I'm blowing kisses to the crowd. I run all the way to their sideline before I look up, and I realize I'm running to their sideline. So I quickly hit a U-turn. I get a 15-yard taunting penalty, and Coach Bailiff is just ripping me a new one. So I had to I acted like I had got concussed a little bit. I was just like, "Oh, Coach, I was out of it," because I landed on my head. And they evaluated me, and I was like, "No, I'm good." So that way he would stop yelling at me, because for a while he was ripping me a new one for sure.
You can't do that these days. You're out the rest of the game in the next game.
Yeah. I was like, I just got turned around, Coach. No, I'm sorry. I didn't even know I was going to their sideline, but 15-yard penalty, which actually after the game, we'd already won the game. Everyone's happy, walking, back, towards the family room or whatever. And I'm walking with Coach Herman, and I'm all excited still. We just won the game. All right, cool. Great. Finish the season. And he's like, "Hey, you cost us 15 yards. And I was like, Coach, we won the game. He's like, "I know, but you still cost us 15 yards. And I was just thinking,
you would say something like that.
I was just thinking, man, this guy is a psychopath. We literally won the game. We just won the bowl game, and this guy is still upset about 15 yards. And I was like, it was a great pick, Coach. What do you want from me? I got you the ball back.
He was crazy, Coach Herman. And I watched the game this morning just to refresh, and I didn't realize how many trick plays we ran in that game. We ran a speed option, double pass by Goodson early on. We ran reverse. We ran reverse to Jarrett, and you tried to throw it to Chase, and wasn't the best throw. But then we had a flea.
It's an understatement.
Then finally, we did another double pass with Chase. You threw it to Jarrett, and then Jarrett threw it back to you for a touchdown. I know that was a big deal going to the game that we were trying to get because you guys have the record for you throwing touchdown passes to Jarrett, but we want to try to get Jarrett to throw a touchdown pass to Chase. So y'all got that done late in the game too.
Yeah, and that one was funny about that. So that was the one that we actually scored on. We put that in the first day of bowl practice. And I think maybe the second game, second practice, they canned it and say, "Hey, we're going to go with this other one." That was the one that we put in. It was kind of the reverse throwback. So that was the one that we ran the whole time. And so we ran that. It didn't work out. So I thought that was the only shot to get a touchdown catch from Jarrett. And then when Drew was signaling it in, later in the game, I had no idea what he was calling. I had no clue. And then when it finally clicked, play clock's run down, I yelled at the offensive line, and a couple of them were like, "What did you just call?" And I just said, "Hey, just block left." And so then it ended up working out. So. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that first pass though, I think you shorted me by about 10 yards.
I was throwing across my body, and and it was just I didn't have the right footing in that one or whatnot. But we made it work. We made it work.
You made up for it. Also, remember Delmas, the safety they had. He was a good player. He was second round draft pick. So I remember him watching film on him. And I was like, man, this guy's a good player. He'll hit you. He's tough. And we go into the game, and I kind of made a catch early on and kind of hit him a little bit, and and got up, and he was just a real respectful, man, I really think you're a good player, all that kind of stuff. And then maybe a couple plays after that, I remember him tackling Torrin Dixon or maybe Patrick Randolph or something, just going after it, and just hearing the difference of how he talked to those guys as opposed to me, going into the game. I was just like, okay.
Lewis, I played with him in Detroit. He's a really good guy, really funny guy if you really get to know him. He was the same way, before the game, how you try to keep your posture with guys, you don't talk too much, just kind of say hello, and you keep it moving. This is during, I guess, the media kind of blitzes that you have to walk through. But he was really a very personable guy. He's like, "Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing?" Yeah. We're talking about combine invitations and all that. Then after the game, it was all respect and professional. And I really respect that, because you you didn't really see that from other guys in Conference USA sometimes. So, yeah, those are the things that you remember about certain players, and I do remember that about him.
So you guys win the game 38-14, and referencing something James just brought up. 10th win for the first time since 1949, your first bowl win since 1954 in the Cotton Bowl. So did you guys understand, again, there have been some good teams since then that I've been blessed to be a part of on the broadcast side with Nate, but did you guys know at that time, okay, this is a really big deal here at Rice? Some of the old timers would probably put an argument, hey, our team was better then, back in the old Southwest Conference days. But starting with you, Andrew, because you're obviously a key guy then, did y'all know then how much history you had made?
I think it's kind of hard in that moment to really think about it. I think in the moment you kind of just think like, wow, like we just finished the season with 10 wins and we won a bowl game. Like you're just kind of trying to take it all in and enjoy it in the moment. I don't think it really kind of kicks in until – a couple of years down the road when you kind of look at the grand scheme of things and look back and you're like, wow, that was a really good team, in Rice's history for Rice football, and just appreciative and thankful to be a part and to help be a part of that.
Now, I'll piggyback off of that. Yeah, I think Andrew's completely right. I mean, he's 100% on point with saying, I don't think we were thinking about that. Same thing with like Chase and I. We're not thinking about what stats, what records we broke. And same thing with James. I know he had 230 something yards one game, but he wasn't thinking about that during the time and in the miss. Now you do have some players, maybe in basketball and maybe some in football, that only focus on the numbers. But I think with the team we had there, we weren't worried about how many yards I got, how many touchdowns, or how many sacks or interceptions. We're just going to play ball, and then when you look at the stat report afterwards, fine, you appreciate it if it's a good report. But then the same thing with the first win, first bowl win for 50 plus years. I don't think that was our main concern. We wanted to win, and we did win. And the fact that you can add the cherry on top, then so be it. But I think we just appreciated that whole season as a team more so than what record we broke, because that's not actually a good record to break.
Yeah, I'll say that obviously anytime you win 10 games, it's a big deal. That's a good season, regardless of the year, the era, what have you. But I think when you look back just a couple years earlier, you're talking we were 1-10 in 2005, and we're an option offense. I mean, so it's just amazing to see a lot of those guys that were starting to play then, maybe even redshirting, learning that system just in a short span, just how much the program turned and changed. Because I mean those last couple of years, I mean those were challenging. The way that the offseason program was run, there's just the kind of the aura around Rice football, in 2004, 2005, it just the culture changed. And so from what we went through then to what we were able to accomplish, I think that's the thing to be most proud of is how we were able to, become the offense that we did based on the players that were recruited to run an option offense, which I think is, sometimes.
But the fact that we went from that point all the way to, a 10-win season, winning the Texas Bowl, and then, I guess in 2013, they win the conference. I believe it's 2013 they won the conference. So it's, seeing that kind of progression, that's like, that's the good part about it. That's good. Those are the feel-good moments.
Yeah, I was a little bit aware of it, just the importance of it, because Rice, we're real small. There's not, we have a real small undergraduates. There's not a lot of lettermen out there. There's not a lot of alumni, but the ones we have, the ones that are around, like the Bucky Alshouses and the Wagners that are always around the football team, you get a sense from those guys of how important it is, and especially when you get to the Texas Bowl and you see how many people that were there. And then after the game, getting to hang out with some people, and then once you get, once you're done playing, like us, and you can actually get around the alumni, and you can go out to dinner with these guys and hang around the lettermen that played before you. You can get a real sense of how important that was, which it's hard to do when you're still playing. But we had a lot of great people around the football team that were helping us out and cheering us on. And it was looking back now that we're older and we're all doing our own thing, and it's a great thing about Rice, because we are small, but we stick together, and it's easier to track what's going on with everybody.
And so at the end of the year, Jarrett made reference to this earlier, but you guys got final AP poll votes for the first time since 1961. And that's only been done 16 times in school history. Had to add that in there. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about one of my favorite people, just not favorite coaches, Coach Bailiff, and what he means in all this. So just each of your thoughts and what Coach Bailiff meant to that, how he handled things. And I mean, everybody knows Coach Bailiff and his unique way of handling things in such a great way. But I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts, how he factored into that great run of 2008.
Yeah, Coach Bailiff, he came in my sophomore year, so totally different than when I had Coach Graham, and Jarrett and Chase can attest to this too. So it was much different. I remember my freshman year, I was like, I cannot wait to get the hell out of here. This is terrible. But then when Coach Bailiff got there, I was thinking, I wish I would have redshirted and had an extra year with this guy. Because Coach Bailiff was like a dad. He would love you and he would yell at you all in the same sentence. And he found a way to get a group of guys that were, dealing with a new coaching staff that have the demands of the academics at Rice and able to, get a winning season like we did in 08. I think it speaks a lot about what kind of coach he is.
Yeah, I'll go next. Bailiff's the only coach I know because, when I got there, he came right in when I got there in the spring. So, I still I talked to him, like earlier this week because he's coaching at Texas A&M Commerce now, and we're both in the coaching industry. So he's kind of a mentor to me now as a coach. But, he kind of put me at defense early on in the spring, and I was playing linebacker for day. Then I played defensive end. And the whole entire spring, I never even played defense, but Bailiff was a defensive coach, so he was trying to get me going. And I think it was me and like Moose were the only two defensive ends standing at the end of the spring. But I kept talking to him, obviously I'm gonna do what the coaches say, but I think he was the main reason why that they moved me to quarterback during the summer of my freshman year. So I got to play offense, or I've never, it'd been I still think I'd have been a decent defensive end, but I probably wouldn't have been able to play in the NFL and do the things I did if Coach Bailiff wouldn't have moved me to offense. And then if I wouldn't have had Chase, obviously, as a quarterback, which I don't think gets nowhere near as much credit as he should with the seasons he had. And, I think everybody would agree with that. But, I was fortunate to have Bailiff as a coach and then Chase as a quarterback and then Jarrett on the other side of me. So it made things a lot easier for me. And I was able to go and play in the NFL for a little while because of the people I had around me and, most importantly, the head coach, Coach Bailiff, what kind of guy he was.
Yeah, I would have to echo that as well. Bailiff's a great coach. He is a great coach. And, what he did with James, I think that shows, the type of coach he is. You have a lot of coaches that get players and they want the player to play that position, whatever that position is. But the great coaches, the ones that, help men and women become successful, are the ones that find you in a spot and help mold you into a player to where they use your attributes. And James then going from DN to, the Wildcat quarterback, and then moving to be more of that kind of double-edged sword kind of tight end, like your Gronkowski's, where he can split them out, to the slot and then bring them in as well. That was something that, and then as well as fullback, that was something that, it takes special coaches and good coaches to try to find that type of talent and utilize that talent. I mean, James is a specimen, and he was able to find a smart specimen at that, able to find something for him that will benefit the team and help, advance his career. Everything that, he did with Rice, with what Chase and I, and as well as Andrew has gone through with, Andrew had 2 coaching changes, but we've had 3, from Hatfield to Graham to Herman. We were almost, I can't say that on this recording, but it was tough to say the least. But he was able to, he dealt with it, and he was able to kind of walk us through it, and it was good to have some consistency those last 2 years. And I think it showed on the field what consistency could do.
Yeah, I can't say enough about Coach Bailiff. I think everybody's in the same boat. Man, on the field, off the field, you wanted to play for him. You wanted to be around him. He just got that charisma and that, just kind of that it about him, right? I mean, he's like a second father to a lot of guys, and we all looked up to him. We all looked to his leadership, and he's, again, just a guy you wanted to play for. So can't say enough good things about him.
And it'd also be remiss if I didn't mention, I meant to get to this earlier, Chase, but I know you don't want to brag on yourself, but MVP of that Texas Bowl that we've been discussing, 307 yards passing, 3 touchdowns through the air, and you caught that aforementioned touchdown pass. But guys, this has been a blast. Can't wait to watch the rebroadcast, but thanks for what y'all have done and continue to do for Rice football, Rice athletics, and y'all be safe out there, okay?
You too. Thank you.
That's good.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's
Good talking with y'all.
good seeing you guys.